check right now. A mile and a half, 2 miles out. I'm spent. I'm emotional drained. And I'm fighting it. And I'm going to continue to fight it.
My name is Bradley Romp, and I'm from Tampa, Florida. I'm 61 years old. My mission is to find a cure for MS and continue to bring awareness and raise money for MS, as I've had it since 2006, and unfortunately, there's not a cure yet. And so I have as an advocate and advocacy, I ride over 157 miles each year to raise awareness and money for the Bike MS. I believe there's 90 rides throughout the United States. And I take it upon myself to, not just for myself, but it's for those people that are struggling worse than me with their symptoms. It's ungodly the amount of money that the medications cost these days. From when I was diagnosed in 2006, there was probably 10 drugs, Michael, and now there's about 20. And my medication back then, it was an interferon called Bear interferon. It's an injection, and it was about $6,000. Now it's over $13,000 for a medication a month. So I got 14 vials, and that's just to keep my MS as stable as can be. That doesn't mean it's going to do that. And there's medications that cost up to $160,000 every 6 months. So I took it upon myself when I was diagnosed back in 2006 that I was going to change the vision of what people thought MS was, because I never knew what it was when I was diagnosed. I had to get taught and learned by my neurologist. And I took the bull by its horn. As hard as it was to wrap that rope around that bull's horns, I had from no feeling in my left arm, completely dead. As I talk to you here right now, both my arms are asleep, both my legs, half my face are completely numb. It's that feeling when you fall asleep on your arm or your leg. That's 24/7 with me. And that hasn't gone away. So imagine yourself waking up one day in bed and not able to move your limbs or your legs. As healthy as you can be, you couldn't move. And you're like, what is going on? So that feeling that I had, that was for about 4 or 5 months, going to several neurologists, having blood work done, several MRIs done, having a spinal tap done. And now here I am in 2022, almost 2023. I'm able to ride on my bike. I'm able to golf. I do get fatigued. I mean, that's my obstacle that I have every day. That my energy level is so high. Obviously, just talking with you about MS itself, because I like to get the word across to people that your life doesn't have to end just because you're diagnosed with MS or any other type of disease that's out there. So I formed a team for my Bike MS. This is my logo, Romp to Cure MS, and I have 25 to 30 riders. And our ride is March 18th and 19th of 2023 in Orlando. And you get the ride either 35, 50, 75, or 100. I obviously do the Century, the 100 miles. For day one, you have a little party banquet with about 1,000 people. You get up the next morning and you ride 50 miles. So it's a total about 157 miles. So it's grueling, I could tell you that, being on a bike for 6.5, 7 hours for one day.
After your diagnosis, what motivated you to begin this bike ride?
You know, in a weird way, I'm not. I believe in God, and I believe that He blessed me having MS. And you're probably thinking, He blessed you with MS. I'll say it again. He blessed me for MS. Why? Because it made me a better man. It made me a better husband, a a better father, a better son, a better uncle, a better friend. It changed me. As men and women, we have this human shield that we have when we're younger or older, that nothing can get in my way. And I was very athletic growing up in elementary, middle school, high school, college, played all sports. Wrestling and track were my main sports. In 2006, we were out in Hawaii celebrating my wife's 40th birthday. And we were playing around the golf with some friends of ours and had a great day playing golf. Had a great round, and the wives were at a spa. And the gentleman that I was with, Dr. Farina, he goes, "Why don't we do it at a spa?" And I'm like, okay. So we were going into the spa, and out of nowhere, there's a shale at the Grand Wailea out in Hawaii, shale rock. Right before the steps, I fell to nowhere, just lost my balance and fell. And I busted my right toe. How do I know I busted my right toe? I could see it. And there was a doctor that was on the premises. So we went to go see that doctor. And, you know, you broke your toe. And then all of a sudden, the next few days that we were there, so I cut all my shoes out, like a hole in the right toe and flip-flops. And I had called my friend of mine, John Small, here in Tampa, who's a neurosurgeon for the brain and spine. And he goes, "Brad, you probably have a herniated disc," because I had pins and needles in my left arm. And with a herniated disc, you get that. So we came back, and I went to a friend of I talked to John Small, and John was out of town. So he goes, "Go see my partner." So in the meantime, I went and saw a chiropractor. And chiropractor is a friend of mine that was coaching with me. I was coaching my son baseball at the time. And I went into his office, and there again, I lost my balance and I fell. And he's like, "Brad, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, I know I broke my toe, but were we out having something to drink?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know why this is happening." So he didn't align me or anything like that. He was really treating me for my broken toe. He goes, "Let me take an X-ray for you." And my brother's a chiropractor in Brandon, Florida. And let me do get an MRI, an open MRI. So he did an open MRI, nothing showed. So my neighbor across the street had noticed that I wasn't walking right. He's a pediatric dentist, Dr. Greg Stepansky, who's on my team. His brother has MS. He saw the signs of me and knew in his head that I had MS. So another friend of ours down the street is a radiologist, Dr. Van Fleet, and he had ordered an MRI for my closed MRI. Got the MRI on a Friday. They didn't read it. So Greg called Rob and said, "Hey, you need to look at Brad's films. He's going ballistics. He can't go over the weekend, not knowing what's happening with him." Yeah. So he came to our house, picked up my films, went to his shop, came back. He told me to send my kids outside. At the time, my son Zachary was 12, my son Jake was 9, and he put him up on our mitered window, and his face was white. And I'm like, something's not right. And I'm thinking cancer or something like that, Michael. He goes, "Brad, I don't know any other way to tell you, but you have MS." And I said, "Okay, what is MS?" And I'm thinking Michael J. Fox, what he has, and it wasn't that. He goes, "You have lesions on your brain and your spine." I go, "Leeches?" And he goes, "No, not leeches, lesions." I said, "Well, kind of explain that." So based on my brain and my spine, where those lesions are the symptoms that I had. And the symptoms at that time were I was losing mobility of my left arm. Like I couldn't pick up my phone. I couldn't pick up a glass of water, and it was progressing. So Rob Van Fleet, my friend down the street that read my films, goes, "I have a friend of mine in Atlanta that runs the MS division up in Atlanta. And he has a friend of his that went to school. His name is Dr. Mark Cassione. Got in with Dr. Cassione the next week. He is my go-to guy. He spent 2.5 hours with me. He goes, "The only thing I'm going to tell you, Brad, that I want done is a spinal tap." I was like, "Oh no." you know, I know what women go through when they go through pregnancy. So I got a spinal tab, and that was the outcome of I have MS. So what do I do from there? He explained the medications. He said, go home, look at all these videos, and it's all older people in wheelchairs and stuff like that. It's depressing. You know, I'm crying my eyes out that this is what my life is going to be like. So that's when he goes, Brad, he goes, I can see that you're very athletic. You want to get back to that. He goes, I'm going to recommend the interferon by Bayer, but I want you to look at all this stuff at home and then call me back. And then I'll have a nurse come out, show you how to do the injections and all that. So we started on the interferon, and I've been on it for 17 years. So I took it upon myself, Michael, when I couldn't lift this arm up, I would stand up in front of my mirror at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, take a 3-pound weight and just lift it with my right arm, just keep lifting it. For months I did that. My wife in the middle of the night would take my arm, my limb, and bring it over because I couldn't move in bed that way. I would come home. I have a healthcare company, so I'm in the healthcare. So I deal with people that have MS, have Parkinson's, diabetes, dementia, all sorts of diseases. Here I have MS, and I have clients that have MS that are bedridden. So here I am working out in front of the mirror, crying, trying to do this. And I would go to work and I couldn't unzip my pants. I couldn't unbutton because I had no functionality of my fingers. It's just, and sometimes I still get that feeling. So that kind of went away. The numbness and tingleness, Michael, has never gone away since I've been diagnosed. And so when I work out hard or I have a hard ride, it's like my muscles are contracting and it's like they're coming out of my skin. It hurts. And I take medications for that, and I have restless legs. So I have to take medications for the restless legs. And I have terrible sleep disorder, which is my worst enemy because I need more than 5, 6, 7, 8 hours sleep. I get 2, 3 hours sleep a day.
Oh, geez.
So imagine working out. And if I did a workout with you, I'm using 3 times as much energy as you. So people living with MS, we use 3 times as much energy. So now go back to me riding a bike. 2006, I was diagnosed. My first ride was in 2007. I haven't missed a ride since then. And I've done the 103, 105 miles every year. And the second day, the 50 miles. And I don't know how I do it. The man upstairs has control. I just said to myself, I want to change the outlook and the image of people living with MS. And I do the best I can promoting MS through not only through the society. I'm an advocate. I'm a chairperson. I do all the TV and radio interviews pre the ride. So the local channels, ABC and Fox News. I average anywhere between $30,000 and $35,000 a year on raising money for our chapter. And then our team, Romp to Cure, we do about 50 to 60,000. So I want that to be at $100,000 because I feel that this disease that costs an average of $88,448 people living with MS. That's staggering.
Jeez.
Almost $90,000 it costs the average person living with MS. So that's with medications, therapy. Now imagine, Michael, people that don't have insurances and they need that help. So the fundraising is so huge for not only the walk and the ride. That's why I knock on every door. If I got to knock on it 4 times until someone opens it, I'm going to knock on that door 4 times with businesses, with friends, through Instagram, through Facebook, being interviewed by you. People need to understand that this is the disease that affects your central nervous system, your autoimmune, and there's no cure for it yet. So it's staggering with the dollars that it costs for people that need not only the medication, but the therapy and the instruments to help them move their legs because they have club leg, or they need bath chairs, and chair rails. I have chair rails in my shower because I fall in that shower because my equilibrium is off. I have vertigo. So vertigo is another thing. I still have it to this day. It feels like I'm drunk when I close my eyes. I feel like I'm swaying. That's all because of the MS.
You touched on a little bit about, having your wife around helping, and then you said she works out with you. How
Yep.
important is it to have a strong support system for you when you're going through this?
Huge. And I'm going to tell you, the MS Society was my first person that I went to, besides my dear wife, Michelle, that we've been married for 32 years, that she has been at my side since that day one when I got diagnosed with MS, and both of my kids, and my son Jacob, that's 25 years old. God bless him. He played football for 3 out of 4 years at University of Miami. My other son Zachary played football at Berry College up in Georgia. Then he went to USF, and now he's a chiropractor. And up in Chicago, he's working for a gentleman up there right now. Has 2 sons, and you know what he's specializing in is MS.
Oh,
People
wow.
living with MS as a chiropractor. So there's methods, there's ways to help people living with MS, just the way he can align the human body. Going to school for 4 years, my son, and dissecting cadavers and learning of people with these different diseases and how different ways he can touch your body to help symptoms of people with MS. I can't wait till my son moves back here from Chicago to Tampa to help me out. So he has me going to a chiropractor here. I don't go enough, so I don't want to lie and say I'm going all the time. I need to, but support staff started from the MS Society when I reached out to them to talk about life living with MS, and then I was very quiet my first 2 or 3 weeks that I had it. Then I said, you know what? I need to let people know what's going on with me. And I need to get out there and help others that are worse than me, that have optic neuritis that they can't see, or they're walking with a cane, or they're in a wheelchair, that are my age or older or younger. So a support staff is huge, reaching out to those people. So I do the bike rides, I do the walk, I do other charitable events for other diseases that are out there. Wounded Warrior, I help out with that organization, riding the bike, raising money for that organization as well. But working out, if it's just doing walking, if you're in a wheelchair, doing band exercises or getting on a treadmill, health is so important for people with MS or non MS. People with MS, it's helped me. I mean, I am here to say that has helped me tremendously with my MS. And the place that I work out with, Michael, has changed my life because of the training that I've done. It's helped me with my balance. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I take my medication every day. Do I have bad days? Yeah. Do I get depressed? Yes, I do. But somehow, some way, I overcome it, and I try to inspire people and motivate people that are in this corner.
With having a consistent workout routine, how important is it to have that for both physical and mental health?
It's my routine every day. If I'm not working out, I'm working out in my pool back here. I'm swimming in my pool, keeping my body active. but for the most part, it's riding on my bike when I can, and I've unfortunately in the 17 years that I've had MS, I've had some relapses, and the relapses are usually brought on from injuries. I've had two injuries since I was diagnosed with MS. Um, well, three if you count COVID. We were remodeling our house. The workers weren't here. My general contractor wasn't here yet. So I was trying to move one of our cameras in our house. So I'm on a 12-foot ladder, and I felt like I was MacGyver. I was up there for like 5 minutes flying in the air, not knowing where I'm going to fall. And I fall on my ankle, shattered it. My wife was working out at the time, and the phone was at the opposite end of where I was, where I fell. So I went to my phone. I FaceTime her. I'm screaming to have her come home. We go to the hospital up the street. This is when COVID was bad. So go to the doctor, walk-in clinic. They say your foot obviously is broken. You're gonna have to surgery. I called both my orthopedic doctors. They said, Brad, you need surgery. You can't do that for a week. It's too swollen. So they put a big, like, somewhat cast on my leg. And what I did is I ordered these. It's like dolphin skin, or the stretchy things when you're working out. Those
Oh yeah,
bands.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so it's made out of the band exercise. It's to put over your cast on your arm or your leg, and you use a pump, and it seal tights there around your cast so it doesn't get wet. So of course, knowing me, I can't stop working out, even though I have a busted foot, no surgery yet. So I'm in the pool doing laps, and I go up and down my pool, and I can hardly breathe. I'm like, what is going on? My wife's inside. I go inside, and she's like, what's up? And I have asthma. So I take a couple inhalers, and my dumbass, I go back outside. I go in the pool, and I do another couple of laps. And I could hardly talk. So she calls our neighbor, Mac Anderson, a pulmonary doctor. He goes, I'm going to call Tampa General. There's two Tampa Generals. There's the main Tampa General, which is downtown Tampa, which is where the main COVID unit was for COVID back in 2019. He had me go to Brandon Hospital so I could go get in right away. Don't know that I have COVID, get swabbed. My wife looks at me, dropping me off because she can't go inside the hospital. She hands me my Dob kit with all my medication in there. She looks at me and she goes, honey, I love you. Please, whatever it is, do not get on a respirator. That was her last words that she had said to me, not knowing I had COVID yet. Go inside. They take my temperature. I have 102.5
Oh,
temperature. They swab me, COVID. They take me in a room that is all sealed off with these air conditioned vents sucking the bad air out and new air coming in. Everyone's got like these space suits on. It was crazy, Michael. And they come back, said I have COVID, and I had not just pneumonia, I had double pneumonia. So now it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm there for 6 hours. They put an IV in me for fluids, and they put a new steroid in me, some type of steroid that is for people that have a compromised immune system, which I have because of my asthma and MS. Mac Anderson, my pulmonary doctor, is the one that said, and Dr. Cassione both got on the phone and said, this is what they should do. Brad, here's what your doctor is. So I can't hardly talk or breathe. So I got a notepad that I'm writing things down to the doctor at the time, Dr. Young. And he comes in, opens up the door, and he goes, Mr. Romp. And I look at him and I shake my head, yes. And he goes, we need to transfer you to the COVID unit at Tampa General. And he goes, you got to airlift you or take in an ambulance. And I'm like, I'm not going to another hospital because I was too scared to leave where I was.
right.
And knowing that the COVID unit was at Tampa General, where there's thousands of people there. So I text my wife saying, I'm on my way to Tampa General Hospital, the COVID, because they can't treat me for pneumonia and COVID at that hospital. So they take me. 20 minutes later, I enter Tampa General Hospital, and they bring me in the back way, Michael, where there's probably 30 tents set up with people getting tested for COVID. I started hyperventilating because now it's real, and I see all these signs COVID. They take me to the glass doors and they stop. They tell the paramedics, stop. He's got to change all of his clothes again. And the paramedics got to change their scrubs to go inside because it's that structured. So they take me in the elevator. They take me up to the 6th floor. At that time, at 1:30 in the morning, all the lights are dim. It's like watching Chicago MD, with, late at night, all the lights are dim.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing these do, all these instruments, all these gauges going on. I'm hearing flat lines, meaning people dying. I look at the paramedics, both on each side of me, as they wheel me, and I go like this, stop. And they're like, don't ask Mr. Romp, because I know you can't talk, you can hardly breathe. And I write on there, tell me those are what I think they are. And they said, yes. Oh my God. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me that this is what's happening with me right now. And they put me in the room, and they have a respirator there right next to me. They put me on oxygen. They do another round of the steroid, and I'm in there, and I have my phone with me. And the doctor comes in, he goes, doctor, whoever it was, and there's a new nurse that's in there. They take all my vitals, they take all my medications that I'm taking, my MS. They see that I have a broken leg. They're like, what happened with that? And I'm writing all this stuff down because I can't talk. I'm suffocating on my own saliva, basically. I'm drowning, is what I felt like with the COVID. And they said, if your peak levels drop down to 95, we have to put the respirator on. And I wrote him, I said, I am not going on a respirator. You have to go on a respirator, Mr. Romp, if this goes to there. So I watched it. I went in at a 97, goes down to 96. Day 2, stays at 96. Day 3, 96, 95. And I go to the nurse. There's a new nurse. She was from Sarasota. She had COVID before. And I said, please tell me what I'm in for. I'm writing this down. I had a journal. And she goes, I didn't have it like you, Mr. Romp. She goes, the peak. So they had this little apparatus where I breathe in and breathe out. And there's a little ball gauge that goes up and down. There's a word for it. I don't know what the machine is called, to open up my lungs. So I have bronchitis, I have double pneumonia, I have MS, I have my asthma, and they're doing treatments every 3 hours, every 6 hours. And that respirator is sitting right next to me. And I don't know what I'm doing, Michael, at the time, but I am saying my goodbyes to my mom and dad, my wife, both of my kids. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me that this is where my life is gonna end, in this hospital, because of, I thought I had it bad enough with my MS, and here I have COVID. And this is the way that God wants me to go. I said, I'm not gonna allow this to do it. I kept that camera watching my peak levels, and I'm praying to God, please don't let it drop down. And I'm looking at the respirator. I'm like, there's no way that I can have this happen. So, and it never fell. So day 4, they said that it went back up to 96, and they said, we called your wife and she's gonna pick you up downstairs. And I'm like, thank God, this. So I lost 17 pounds in those 4 days, and I looked disheveled. I have a video of me getting rolled out in a wheelchair down at the COVID unit where my wife picked me up, and I'm all like this. I'm at home for 2 weeks. I have to be at home for 2 weeks. I can't see anyone. I'm running a healthcare company, and I can't hardly speak still. And then they after COVID, they call it fogginess, and it's your brain is foggy, and that lasted for 8, 9, 10 months. And the doctors at Tampa General and USF, University of South Florida, from the Veterans Administration, they would call me every day to check in on me to see how I was doing. And I'd be answering questions, and they're like, "Are you okay, Mr. Romp?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" Because you're not making sense. And that was a fogginess. I thought it was the MS, but it was from the COVID. So to battle through what I've gone through with my MS to date, the COVID, my broken ankle, I have to pat myself on the back that I've made it to where I have, and it's again, I say that it's not about me, Michael. It's about letting people know that with a little fight and prayers and support, as your question is, support staff, that my wife, my kids, my friends that are out there that support me, my teammates on my ride, they gathered all around me. So I make it through all that. When I ride with passion, and it's just something about the man upstairs that controls that I refuse to give in. And I can't do this alone, Michael. I need help from people out there to support this disease, support the rides, support the walks that we have out there. It's not about me, Brad Romp. It's about making a difference in people's lives that are struggling with this disease, that needs help and needs people out there to raise awareness and raise funds. So one day I could be interviewed and say, I'm cured with MS. That's what I'd love to have.
Reality check right now. Mile and a half, 2 miles out. I'm spent. I'm emotional drained. And I'm fighting it. And I'm going to continue to fight it. And I am so thankful for you guys. Every one of you on Team Grace. If you don't believe in faith, y'all have a problem. It's all about the man upstairs. God has a plan for each of us. You gotta fight the fight. You have a positive attitude of life. I'm sacrificing myself today and I am hurting. But I'm doing it and I'm gonna get it done. So thank you to my lovely wife, my 2 boys that aren't here. I love you, Zach and Jay. And everyone on the team. God bless you all. Thank you. Okay, so I want to understand why all you guys are out here today as a family. I want to know why you guys come out here for this. Support?
We have so much, you gotta get back. Yeah.
Right to get back, isn't it? Well, I appreciate you guys very much. I look forward to this top. This is like a third. You guys have gotten all tall. So from top and bottom of my heart, I appreciate all you guys coming out here. Supporting me. I'm dying right now.
You're not gonna leave.
I'm dying right now. And I do it for all the sort of things that I've had. You know, you guys know I have MS. I push myself for all the other people that have MS and debilitating diseases. So I appreciate you guys, coming out here and supporting me, helping me, and having fun like this too, right?
Thank you for riding.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much.